That slide is not very slidey. Good morning. Hey, it's Rylie Cook, aka the OneWheel Realtor here. We are going to talk today about why buying is so much better than renting. A little bit of a flip from the last video that I did. So let's find out why. So before we get into the upsides of buying versus renting, we just have to briefly discuss what's been happening with the renter market, especially here in Toronto. As I mentioned in my past video, we've been seeing about a 20% rental increase over the past 2 years. In addition to that, we have the lowest vacancy rates that we've had in Toronto's history. And this has pushed a lot of people to want to buy. And there's a lot of upsides to buying versus renting. And here's just a couple of them. The first upside of buying versus renting is that you're actually paying your own mortgage. Whereas when you're renting, you're paying someone else's mortgage, and that can add up really quick. Let's just do a quick calculation here. Let's take the average $2,000 a month rental. That might seem high for your city, but that's about the average for a one plus den unit in the city right now. If we take that and times it, say you're there for 2 years, that's $24,000 a year, close to $50,000 over those 2 years. And while you have a place to stay, you're not actually growing any equity there. You're paying someone else's mortgage. So while the market increases and appreciates, you're just going to be kind of paying someone else's rent, and unfortunately, that can eat into your savings if you don't have a job that allows you to get ahead of the market, or stop renting and getting to buy something. So what are the other upsides of buying versus renting? Well, another big one is that you've actually got stability. When you own that home, it's yours. Unlike when you're renting, you can kind of get kicked out at any moment. And while this is changing a little bit in Ontario because there's more renter protections coming into place, you're kind of at the whim of your landlord in most cases. And this can kind of get a little annoying if you're moving every couple of years and you don't really get to feel like you've settled into somewhere. Whereas if you own a place, you've got somewhere to live. Unless you don't make your mortgage payment, you're gonna have a home to come home to at the end of the day. And that can be really, really nice to have, especially if you've got a stressful job, stressful life. It's nice to come home and have a place that you can just put up your feet and know, okay, this is mine. No one's gonna take it. This is my home. And this goes into our other upside of buying versus renting, in that you can actually do renovations and make the home yours. Whereas when you're renting, you can maybe put up some posters and a couple of pictures. You can't really do that much. Whereas when you buy a place, your imagination's really kind of the extent of what you can do, unless you live in a condo where you've got some condo regulations to abide by. But besides that, you've got a lot of freedom to really make that home yours. And this is a great, great value because, it's nice to have your own things. It's nice to come home and it smells like your place. You've got the favorite colors on the wall. You got everything that makes it yours. And this is a huge, huge, huge upside. But what are some of the downsides of buying versus renting if you're not really ready? We're going to talk about that now. So what are some of these downsides that I'm talking about? Well, the biggest one is that you're tied into a 25, sometimes a 30-year mortgage. And this is a really big commitment. It's typically the biggest investment of your life. And you have to know that you're ready for that. If you're, say, 25 or 30 now, you're tied into that mortgage until you're 50. And that's a lot of obligation to take on if you're not prepared for all of the steps that go along with home ownership. And in addition to this, you have to keep your income. While I alluded to before that no one can kick you out of your property unless you don't make your mortgage payment, that is the possibility if you're changing jobs and you don't have a stable income. You don't want to be kind of left homeless by buying a place and then moving jobs in a year and realizing, I actually can't afford this, and then you're forced to sell. So this makes it a lot tougher to Yes. So this downside really comes into effect if you haven't taken all the proper steps to say, I'm ready for this obligation. I'm ready to take on this 25-year mortgage. I'm going to be in a position where I can keep my income going to sustain this lifestyle. But also another thing that comes in is you're going to have a change in lifestyle. If you're traveling extensively and you're going all around the world, you're partying every weekend, you love eating out, that's going to potentially change if you go and buy a place, because your mortgage has to come first, and that takes priority over everything else. And you really, really, really need to make sure that your budget allows, if you do want to keep that old lifestyle, you need to have a job that kind of brings you up and allows you to do both things, or you have to say, I'm going to do one or the other. So how do you go about kind of facing these home buying fears that you might have, taking on that 25-year mortgage, making sure that you've got a stable income? You can do all these things by getting someone to help you out, hiring a professional like myself. We are here to guide you through the home buying process, and we're here to answer a lot of the questions that you might have. And with this information that you get, it'll make you a lot more comfortable, because really knowledge is power when it comes to real estate and just in general. But the more that you know about the home buying process from start to finish, the better that you're going to feel about, when you do sign that 25-year mortgage for however much money, you're comfortable with it. And you're saying, okay, I've done all my research. I don't want to rent anymore. I'm ready for this next commitment in my life. I'm ready for the adaptation and lifestyle. If that means any shift there, I'm ready for it. And you might say to yourself, you're not ready for it, and that's totally okay. You might have to go and rent, as I mentioned in my last video about why renting is better than buying for some people. So I hope this video kind of gave you a little bit of a breakdown on some of the upsides of buying versus renting. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the section down below. And be sure to stay tuned for our next video, where we're going to be talking about the explosion of micro condos and tiny condo units in Toronto and around the world right now. So I hope to catch you then.